You don't know who wants that old brown Chesterfield. I'll give it away, whoever wants it. It needs a mattress, but otherwise it's good. No tear or anything in it. I'll give it away.
It's moving day for 91-year-old Julia Romanovsky. For 36 years, she's lived alone in this small house in Lumsden, Saskatchewan.
Well, I'm going to turn it over and take it down there and...
Take it over there?
Yeah, I think I'll catch a little water for my hair and that. Yeah, I kept it up. I repaired it and got it painted. But I got to give it up now. I can't look at it much. No? I feel bad.
Lumsden's town council has given her 2 weeks to pack up and move out.
That stays with this couch.
Oh, this stays with the couch.
Mm-hmm.
I'll put it here then.
That belongs to that couch.
I guess that's it.
Yeah, I guess so.
If that house can be cleared out in the weekend, we could probably burn it this weekend, then.
Earth movers took their first bite this morning in a loop of the river just west of the old Game Street Bridge here. There are 5 loops to be taken out of the river between the railway on the west of town and highway number 11 on the east. And the banks of the river will be built up so it can handle, they can handle between 30 and 40 feet of water, much more than the record levels that threatened Lumsden last spring, okay?
Last spring, news reporters had no time for rehearsals. Their story was the biggest flood ever in southern Saskatchewan.
Floodwaters are still rising across the prairies, and in many areas the worst is yet to come. Several centers have been evacuated, dikes have burst, highways are cut, rail lines have been washed out, and bridges have been swept away. One of the hardest hit areas is Moose Jaw in Saskatchewan.
The whole damn province has water in it. In Moose Jaw, close to 100 blocks are underwater. 1,500 people taken from their homes. Damage said at $3 million. Sandbags are still being put out.
We've evacuated 1,600 people. There's about 500 homes that have had to be abandoned. Some of them, I think, will be total write-offs.
We couldn't believe it. We knew it was coming, but not this much.
It might happen another 200 years, and it might not ever happen again. This is just a freak flood.
Late word from CBC Radio. Radio reports will continue around the clock until the flood crisis is over.
April 1974. Sudden rising temperatures swelled tiny prairie creeks 4 times their normal flow. In Minot, North Dakota, Moose Jaw, Saskatchewan, and parts of Regina, hundreds of homes were flooded. Downstream in the Qu'Appelle Valley, all this water would bottleneck at a small town called Lumsden. For years, Lumsden residents had heard of plans to build a new river channel to carry floodwater through town. But the channel would cost $750,000. So this year, like so many others, they would have to rely on the old dikes and reinforce them as best they could.
This may not be strictly Board of Trade news, but I hope it gets published because I think it's their views. It's about the warm feeling that we have in small towns, for we're like a big family with its ups and its downs. If you've never had grief, you never will know the warmth that goes out to those who feel low. It's a kind of a heritage that's been handed down and one of the blessings of a very small town.
Good afternoon. This is the closing grain price broadcast for Wednesday, October the 9th. Broadcast number 88. Street price changes. Wheat, advance, 3 cents. Rye, advance, 7
It's no side.
1/2 cents. Freight speed, Schedule B. Advance.
Lumsden's first settlers, solid Presbyterian farmers from Scotland, found their way here in 1881. The town was named after Hugh Lumsden, who surveyed the route for the Regina-Prince Albert Railway. Wheat filled the town's elevators, and each summer, gravel from the nearby hills was shoveled into wagons, hauled into town, and shipped by rail to Regina. At Troughton's General Store, you could buy blackcurrant jam from Liverpool, axle grease from Cincinnati, and trade stories about the town's soccer team or the price of wheat. And on a hot summer's day, there was nothing like a cool dip in the river. The spring of 1904. The peaceful Qu'Appelle River flooded its narrow banks and swept down the main street of town.
If one bad year, we goddamn near got it. We have nothing to work with. 48. We have nothing to work with. 52. The year of the foot and mouth, we had nothing to work with. 55, we had nothing to work with. And we just fought back with this here. But now, you see, these people has these big machines. Well, that's rather a different thing.
There's no sleep for Lumsden tonight. The Qu'Appelle River is now rising at the rate of 6 inches an hour. The flow is 3,000 cubic feet a second, and it's expected to double by morning. It's a 24-hour vigil. Dikes are being built to handle a flow of 12,000 cubic feet a second, and they'll go even higher if necessary. Bob Metcalf reporting for CBC News from Emergency Measure Headquarters in Lumsden.
Friday, April 19th. Moose Jaw had gone under. At Lumsden, the river was now rising at 8 inches per hour.
Reading at 1-2.
Hydrologists predicted a flow of 15,000 cubic feet per second, twice as much water as anyone in Lumsden had ever seen. They had less than 48 hours to be ready.
The National, with George Finstad.
Good evening. Rivers swollen by spring thaws and ice jams continue to flood over wide areas of the prairies. In the small town of Lumsden, floodwaters are expected to peak sometime tomorrow.
In this spot, the Qu'Appelle River is usually 50 feet wide. Today, it's half a mile. And all this water is flowing towards Lumsden, a town of 850 people nestled in a valley. A town that tonight is valiantly fighting for its life.
Nobody can give any guarantees of safety. And under those circumstances, I think it's imperative that the residents of those affected areas should evacuate, should remove themselves from a situation of danger, because if something should fail, we will have no warning, and it will create a situation of immediate grave danger.
Well, as far as we're concerned, we're still building dikes. We have no guarantee that this is the end of the height nor the flow. There must be some headwaters or someplace that's pushing this stuff through pretty fast.
There's a lot of people from in Lumsden, from Regina and all the other cities
towns around here that came out, and they've really given a helping hand. You'd be surprised how, you know, one thing like this can really draw the people closer together. That's what really, you know, got me. It really gives you a pretty good feeling.
But these people aren't licked yet. Some of them have been working for 36 hours straight. They just won't quit.
Within the last 2 or 3 days, when we got the prediction of 11,000 or better, in 15 minutes we had 6 Euclids on their way to Lumsden. That's how quick it was to get things going.
What it boils down to is this. Can topping on these 12-foot dikes be added as fast as the water rises? The odds say it can't. These workers say it can.
Caution dictates that you can't move these huge machines and the men with the danger on these narrow dikes. We have already seen one of these huge earth movers teetering on the edge of a dike. Luckily, on the dry side, more luck, they managed to drag it clear with a bulldozer. Bob Metcalf, CBC News, from the dikes in Lumsden.
Every once in a while, one slides off a little bit.
How long have you been working here?
Oh, we just came down here at 11 o'clock last night.
You've been working most of the night, or?
All night.
Out of any that I've talked to.
For Lumsden, this all began a month ago with the first scrape of a bulldozer blade on the first section of dike. The next few hours will tell if it will be all for nothing. Nobody here believes it will be. And you have only to see these ramparts and the men and the machines who build them to share their confidence.
Noon today, things look pretty black because the water was rising at the same rate as it was this morning. There's a lot of people that still think the dikes are going to maybe not hold. If they hold till morning, I think they're going to make it.
We knew that to save the town, we would have to move a mountain. A mountain has been moved. Know that on this spot, the people of Lumsden, aided by hundreds of their comrades from other communities, did epic battle with the waters of the Qu'Appelle River, which rose to the housetops, but did not prevail during the Great Flood of 1974. Presented in admiration to the people of Lumsden from the people of Saskatchewan, April, May 1974. I've taken the liberty, sir, to sign it on your behalf and on mine. Now, good day.
Yeah, I worked on every one but this one. And then looked up my birth certificate and it wouldn't let me through town. No, I worked on them all.
What sort of jobs did you have?
Oh, carrying sandbags and filling sandbags, and sometimes if they thought you were a little intelligent, they'd give you a job with a gang of men. And
hard work?
It was hard work, because a lot of it was at night, just with the lanterns, you see. We didn't have the electric lights like you fellas had. When there's a gang of men like that working, pretty near know each other, you know, and no big outfits or nothing, there's a lot of kidding goes on and a lot of fooling goes on. That takes a lot of the hard work out of it, so when you do that.
We've ever assembled that much equipment in one place and had it going 24 hours like that was going.
That's right.
And it came from everywhere. I remember talking to gentlemen.
They're going to just cut a channel in here enough that as the water starts to spill over the banks, it will enter the channel at a fairly straight.
The water comes in up that there and comes in there and hits that bay right there. and then comes down here and runs into the bridge.
During the flood, the winding Qu'Appelle River was squeezed through town between 30-foot dikes. The bottleneck was most critical at the James Street Bridge. A new channel would straighten out the bends in the river, speeding the water through town.
That water has to be pushed through 18 running steps of water at that bloody bottleneck. There's the trouble right there.
We'll go on to item number 5 here. There are several things under it. This is a channel project report.
After spending $7 million last spring shoring up the old dikes, the provincial government is finally putting up another $750,000 to build Lumsden a new channel and bridge. 1/10 of the project is paid for by the municipality, and 4 houses must be moved by the town council.
Yes, I'd like to bring council up to date with the River Channel project. The houses are now being moved out by the building mover. He's hopeful to have most of the houses moved before the end of this week, and perhaps the final house by the 1st of next week.
Mrs. Romanovsky has moved into a trailer, just 50 yards from her old home, which lies directly in the path of the new channel. The wooden house is too old and fragile to be moved.
Shut the doors, Bill, so you don't create too big a draft. What? Shut the doors while you're in there.
Pretty wet, by the looks of it.
Despite the expense, the new channel will only protect the town of Lumsden. Downstream, the market gardens will still be flooded.
It's no good, but it's lovely hedge.
Squeezed by late planting due to the flood and an early September frost, many crops were ruined.
There's a good picture.
What's wrong with it?
It's frozen. It's not. It's just complete loss. All that. Because you see that there, should have had another month.
For the market gardeners, annual floods are a way of life.
Now you got the whole damn story right there at the flood. And there'll always be a flood in Lumsden as long as that remains. We have always had floods and we always will. And there'll be floods when I'm gone and you're gone on that particular thing. Lumsden is the only people in the North American continent today that could have fought this flood. They were born and raised and grew up and went to school with the flood. They fight on to the last minute and the last hour, and then they wouldn't give up, and they win out.
Thanksgiving morning, the first snowfall. It will be a long wait till spring.
You see, it used to be in the blizzards, the old folks would say that the blizzards were worse in the old days than they are now. Now we could say that the 1903 flood didn't hold a candle to the 74.